devotees, one good thing is we get to know each other. So why doesn't everyone introduce themselves? Not alone, just your name. Start from this side, I think. Go. Yes?
Gaurapremi Devidas.
Okay.
Melody.
Melody. Okay.
Ashley.
Ashley.
Tommy.
Melody.
Kamla. Ishwara Rasa. Kshudi. Karuna Shakti Das. Sarvanta Sundari Devidas.
Assim gostaria da proteção. That's my name.
Oh.
That's what I was
Isaiah.
You.
Sure.
Yes? No, you. Him. You.
Me.
Yes.
Paramatma Das.
Paramatma, yes. It's good if we know the names, it's good to repeat them sometime, because then you identify them. And others, Sean?
Mari.
And what?
Mari.
Mari, okay.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to hear from here then. So does everybody already know everyone's names? I mean, I know a bunch of the people here, like Paramatma and Gaurapremi and many others here. But it's always good to repeat them sometimes, so that we treat each other as a person. You know, we're not just talking to objects. That's the thing, is to treat people as a person. So, certain devotees have given us impetus. And a lot of, just like in sales work, one of the things that's good is when you work on yourself. Because Krishna mentions the qualities of devotee: fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, austerity, charity, tolerance, compassion for all living entities, aversion to fault finding. That's my own faults. I make up faults about you, but we'll pretend mine don't exist. That wouldn't be trying anything new, though, would it? Many people do that already, don't they? If I can make up a fault about you, then that means the real faults about me are okay. That's how people exploit each other, and that's how the racism comes. He's one of those green shorts people, and green shorts people are bad. So if I take money from him, it's okay because I'm good and he's bad, right? I knock him down, I take his money and I leave, but it's okay because I'm good and he's bad. But people don't become good and bad by you deciding that. What is that saying? Pretty is as pretty does. But you see that's gone on in this country, hasn't it? You just decide certain people, where they say give the dog a bad name and then kill it. So this shouldn't be the attitude we have. We get this attitude by being close to Krishna, because Krishna is the root of the tree. When we water the root, you care about the whole tree. If there's a plant or a tree and you leave it alone, you don't care about it, right? But if you go and water the root every day, you're going to be concerned to see that the leaves are growing and the fruits are growing. So Krishna is the root. And are some of us the leaves, or all of us leaves? Some leaves might be bigger, some might be smaller, new leaves, some might be darker, some might be lighter, some might be older. You know, we judge by that. You know, you look around, people think, well, there's brown and black and white. We don't judge that way, but even when you look at that, you see it's like with Indians, there's some Indians that are lighter than some European people who are dark. And you see even Africans, some of them are kind of brownish, some of them kind of red, and some of them, you know, there's so many different real colors, just like the spectrum of colors. You know, you get like a bead bag. I always have my bead bags made with a kurta, because I want a blue bead bag. Well, how many shades of blue are there? There's dark blue and light blue and powder blue and so many so many kinds of things that it can vary. So in one sense, we're all the same, yet we're all unique in another way because we each have our own personality. But a lot of this caring for others goes, there's kind of like two tracks to the railroad. One is to work on yourself, because when we become close to Krishna, then we become close to all of his living entities. Imagine like if you have brothers and sisters. Anybody here have brothers and sisters? Raise your hand. Paramatma doesn't have them? I don't. I'm an old child. Well, actually, I told my friend Tukaram is the temple president of Laguna Beach, and his kids are really smart. When his son was 6, I said, my brother was the only child, and then I was the only child. You know what he said? Think about it carefully. What did he say? How is that possible? Anybody know? What?
Brothers.
No, he was the only child. Then when I was born, I was the only child. So how is that possible? What's that? What'd she say? She got it. That's smart. That's what the kid figured it is. He died before I was born. But I still consider him a brother. My mother didn't like to think that. My father said he lived a few days, but she liked to think that he was just born dead and objectified, right? If you give a name, it's just like if a terrorist captures you, you say, my name is this and I'm from this. Because if I could just call you an object, that thing over there. But if the terrorists capture you, tell me, I have a name and I have friends and I have brothers and sisters, you make yourself personal. And then they have to treat you differently because we're not just energy like electricity. The electricity can create a microphone, and it can create lights, and it can create the fan and the refrigerator and the heater. But it's just an energy, right? But we each have a personality, even though we do when we're devoted to Krishna, we work on ourselves by we become devoted to Krishna and we rise above the modes. Because when we're in the modes, we're going to see people differently. There's the 3 modes: ignorance, passion, goodness. Now, the mode of ignorance, I don't care about anyone else. Is the beer here yet? Did I get my drugs? The people think that they'll drink a lot of alcohol and they're too tired, and they'll take cocaine and speed, they're too nervous. But if they do them together, they're normal. Is that true? No, it just means they're walking around in a dream. But this is what the mode of ignorance thinks. In the mode of ignorance, you think like I'm saying, he's bad and I'm good, so I can take anything I want from him. I can beat him, I can deprive him, because after all, I'm good and I'm bad. But that defies it. Good is how you act. But in the mode of ignorance, you see, this is how the Nazis went along. You hear the Nazis who were in the prisoner of war camp, they're talking about how they kill the Jewish little children. And they said, we have to kill these children because they're going to grow up and they're going to take over business and they're going to exploit us and they're going to make our life miserable. And they're killing small children, maybe 2, 3 years old. And yet somehow they've made themselves into the victim. This is the mode of ignorance. They're the bad ones. You're killing children, but they're bad because they're going to grow up and do something wrong to me. But if you're in that mode, that's the way you think. And you think the wrong thing is the right thing and the right thing is the wrong thing. Oh, being fair to people, that's terrible. Isn't it?
Yes.
Just like I was living in a non-white area and trying to help people out, that was a crime. Oh, you can't do that. But I lived in La Mercy. Nobody else lived there but me anyway, so who cares what kind of an area it is? Like you go by some of this jungle, it's like, well, what is that, a white area, a black area? It's a green area, it's just trees, right? There's nobody there, so how would they, classify? They want it all for themselves. I remember when South Africa went to the moon and put the sign, Slegs Blanks. But But they don't own the moon, so they can't create that kind of restriction there. They couldn't create it here. And you can't turn around the other way and say blacks only, or greens, or yellows, or whatever else we have. The person in the mode of passion, he sees there's different kinds of bodies. Okay, this one's a little younger. These ones are a little older. These ones appear to be females, right? I mean, you have to notice there's some difference, but you don't always judge, well, those are just females. You know, some people think females are, you know, they downgrade them. Oh, females, wow, those are females, they're great. But they're neither better or worse than ordinary people. I'm joking, because we have a couple types of people with males and females, right? And there's ways of dividing these, but we should think about the ways in the mode of passion. You see the different things. In the mode of goodness, you see that there's one common spiritual spark, just like with the electricity. If the electricity goes out, the microphone goes off, the light goes off, the fan, all of it, because there's one common energy. So how late should I go till the sun comes up tomorrow, or how long?
It's 1 hour talk, right?
Okay. So you see one common spark between all the people. You see, that's what's important. You know, you may work at the post office. You may do farming, and you may work on cars, and you may manage the whole business. And somebody else may have a dress shop. Someone else may be a surgeon. But there's still one common spiritual spark inside them. But it takes that, as like Krishna says in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as a Sanskrit verse, Vijavanaya Sampane Brahmi Gavani Hastini Sunyaiva Sapakita Pandita Samadarshanaha. That the sages see with equal vision due to realized knowledge, because they've actually realized this by their spiritual practice. It's like you might hear about electricity, but if you turn on the light or stick a fork in the socket, now you've realized electricity. It's not just an idea. So due to the realized, they see that they see with equal vision a gentle and learned Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Now, don't those people have something different? How do you see an elephant, a cow, and a dog eater? All those the same, and a dog. Because they have the spark that's inside of them. And if we see that spark that's inside, it makes it easier to have this camaraderie with other people. And plus we develop the love. You know, Krishna says in the chapter about devotional service, he says, one who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, and who is free from false ego, who is equal in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So we see that by having this feeling, we become dear to Krishna. We'll go back to the thing with brothers and sisters. Anybody here had parents? Anybody didn't have parents? Anybody came out from under a rock? Scorpions are sometimes born from rice, you know that? But that's because the egg was planted there. So you go to your parents and you say, I love you, Mommy and Daddy, but I hate my brothers and sisters. Will they be impressed by this? No, hopefully not, right? So it comes as a package. God and all the people are connected. The plants and all the things come from them. To mistreat them is like I say, well, this is our country, and each group thinks it's their country, and they neglect that the animals live here too. The animals have some rights. It's funny because some animals are killed for no reasons, and in some countries the dogs are given extra rights. They can bark all night and they can do whatever. There's laws to change those, but people let their dog run crazy. So we have to realize the rights extend to all living entities. And of course, we see this in that attitude that Krishna is pleased by that attitude. Radhanath Swami was giving a class, and he said, how should we deal with people? So, well, the first premise is, how can I be helpful? That's why one of the first things we do, they say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Anybody here have 2 mouths and only 1 ear? Nobody? You're sure, right? You would know that, right? If you had 2 mouths and 1 ear, you would know it? So you're pretty sure there's no mouth in the back of your head? Anybody have eyes in the back of their head? Who can see behind them well? So you see some of the birds don't have eyes in the front, they have one on each side. You see that? So they see this way and that way. It's like the seagulls at the beach, they want to see, they turn their head sideways, because their head sideways they can see with both eyes. But their vision is a little different. But they still have the same spirit soul that's inside. Is watching the one dove came to the window of the temple, and he's looking in. I got real close, and he was looking back at me. So we realize that they're all living entities. And the difference with those modes of nature is that when we realize that everybody is connected to Krishna, then our idea is that we want to be helpful to other living entities. We don't want to think, how can I hurt them or take from them, destroy them? In the mode of goodness is good for meditation and chanting because we're in the past. We want to be helpful. We want to be healthy. We want to be peaceful and tolerant. And we're in the present, so we're happy with the way things are. In the mode of passion, you want the future to get here quick. And you're hankering for the things you don't have. So many desires, so little time, right? And you're always frustrated by that. In the mode of ignorance, you're in the past and you're intoxicated and you're violent. So a lot of this comes by what kind of mode that we're in. That's why we do things, we don't get intoxicated. Because you notice if you go to a place where everybody's drinking, is it going to be more likely there will be a fight there than here? How often do you have fights break out and you're not allowed to? Right? Oh, no, because the mode is right. We're trying to help each other out. So it helps by the understanding. And it helps to put these things into practice. Just like saying before, you know people's name and you know something about them. It's just like I was telling someone in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about 4 kinds of people who do surrender to him, and 4 kinds of people that don't. And someone said, well, why do you need that? Because people should just surrender to Krishna. But that's like saying if you're sick, the medicine you need is in the pharmacy, correct? So why select any particular, you just buy some pills and take them, right? Is that it? Say, I'm sick, I need some pills. Does the pharmacy give them to you?
No.
What do they want to see? What do they ask for? They ask for a subscription? No, that's a magazine. Just checking. They ask for a prescription. Now, why do you need a prescription? Why don't you just get a pill? The pills are all medicine, right? So what does the doctor find out first thing? You say, I'm not. You come to the doctor, oh good, I have pills for you. Is that what they say? What do they find out first? Do they tell you or do they ask questions? Right? And then so what do they want to find out? Before you find out what to give someone, you need to find out what the disease is. Isn't it? You can't just assume, oh, you're sick, take this. Someone says, oh, you should take this medicine because it worked on my diabetes, but I don't have diabetes. So that isn't going to help, right? They say men do this quite often. They want to impress the woman, so they like whatever they do. Or they come up with a solution before they even know what the problem is. Right? you should swim in the ocean on Thursdays. What was your problem? It's funny because I joke with women. I say, what's your favorite color? Before they say anything, I say, really, mine is too. They laugh because that's what men do quite often. Really? Which is your favorite beach in Durban? Really? That one's mine too. Which is your favorite kind of fruit? The zookaloo. Oh, my favorite fruit is also a zookaloo. Of course, there's no such thing. But if you said that's your favorite, that's mine too, right? So is this the way to act? Isn't it better to, as Rupa Goswami says, that devotees confidentially reveal their mind? Does that mean that you tell me secrets and I put them on Facebook tomorrow? Is that what confidential means? What does confidential mean? It's like if the file is confidential, does it go out to the public? No, you want to know, just like Jayapataka Swami says in the Bhakti Vriksha groups, the people want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. Imagine if I say, look, I've been alive a lot longer than you, and I've been reading this book for many years, and you need to shut all those ears, shut up that mouth, and open those ears and listen to me because I have something good to tell you. This is called pontificating, right? The pontiff is like the Pope. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear. But the message may not be served properly. It's like if I bring you a nice meal, and it looks really good, and you're happy about it. But if I pour it down your shirt, are you happy with the delivery? Right? You might have thought, this is nice, and you sit and eat it, but when I pour it down your shirt, will you be happy now? I served you a meal. That's nice quality. How come you're unhappy? How come you're unhappy with it? I served him a meal, and he's not happy with me. What an ingrate, huh? So you have to find out what people's issues are first. It's funny, I train my children that way. My son's in high school, he's on the phone. I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm talking to one of the girls from high school. I said, but you're not talking. He said, she doesn't want me to talk, she wants me to listen. So first you need to listen before you respond. Right? Otherwise I say, oh, you asked me, said, oh, the train on Wednesday. You really have nothing to do. Remember, somebody called my mother up who was an attorney, and so was my grandfather. And the woman says, and how are you doing? My mother says, the woman hadn't talked to her in like 3 years. Says, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Says, and how about your father? My mother says, oh, he passed away 2 years ago. And the woman says, wonderful. So maybe you need to listen to what they say before you respond. And back to those different kinds of ones. There's 4 kinds of people who don't surrender to Krishna. And we can spot them because if somebody's super antagonistic, if you're a pure devotee, maybe somebody's all drunk and they're saying how they hate everybody, say, oh, you want me to tell you about love of God? And they chase you with a bottle, it might be better to give your attention somewhere else. What do you think? Right? First you give your attention to the running, right? Isn't it? Sometimes we can't help people even when we try. I remember I was in the one city, and this one girl was probably 30 years younger than me. She's in her jogging outfit, and she's getting ready to go for a good solid jog. And she's ahead of me, like maybe where Rasa Raj is, going that direction. As she starts to jog, she drops her keys. And this shows you a couple of things. One is that you can't always help people when you try, and sometimes they don't understand you're trying to help them. So I started chasing her. She ran a little faster. So I ran a little faster. Then she ran a little faster. I sped up, and she booked it gone. It would have made a great video, right? So unfortunately, the number was on the keys, so I called her up and I said, I found your keys. She says, oh good, where did you find them? I says, well, you dropped them and I was trying to catch you, but you got away from me. She said, well, I thought you were chasing me. I says, I was. but I was trying to give you your keys. She says, that's okay. I made my best time ever in the 50-meter dash. I said, yeah, but unfortunately, your time in the 50-meter dash was better than mine. So sometimes people defeat you, even against their own self-interest, right? They run away from you, they fight with you over something, and it doesn't work out the way you did. So it's better to put the attention towards someone that may be willing. We'll get to that in a minute when we talk about 3 kinds of devotees. So the ones who are not going to surrender, the Muda, he just works hard because he wants to build a house that he can enjoy in and have sense gratification and watch the TV and get drunk. The Naradama doesn't try anything different. He says, well, we've always done this. You know, me and my family robbed the bank. My father robbed the bank. My grandfather did. Isn't that what I should do? That's what Mugari the hunter did. Narada Muni says, why are you half killing these animals? And the hunter says, well, my father half kills them, and so did my grandfather. And that makes it okay, right? It's just like someone wrote in the toilet somewhere, 500 trillion flies can't be wrong, eat stool. Is that true? Hey, they outnumber us. If you're going just by the votes, you notice that sometimes just because they vote someone into office doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best person. Is it true? Now, if the flies are going to vote for what the best kind of food is, they're going to vote in the stool. Right? And there's trillions of them. There's only about 8 billion people on the planet. So you can't always judge just by the numbers. So that's what the Naradamas do. Well, I remember when I had white tennis shoes. And because I was an only child, I like to find things. I go to the Sound Spectrum, and I found this one album, The Disraeli Gears by the Cream. And I told these other guys that only like to do what was popular. They said, well, I haven't heard that on the radio. I said, yeah, listen how good it is. And then 8 months later, it's on the radio, and he's singing the song, Sunshine of Your Love. I said, I showed you that 8 months ago. He says, yeah, but it wasn't popular then. I said, so it was still the same good music. And he was thinking about that, so I had white tennis shoes. Blue tennis shoes became popular. These same people said, well, you can't wear white tennis shoes. I said, why not? He said, because blue tennis shoes are popular. And I said, well, we'll go to the mall on Saturday. So we went to the mall. I said, just try on the blue ones. So as I try on the blue ones, they bought me blue ones and threw away the white ones. So, well, I guess I'm wearing blue tennis shoes, right? But isn't that big a deal? If I told you I was going to wear white tennis shoes instead of blue ones, would you get up and leave the room right now? Oh, I can't believe that. He's one of those blue tennis shoe people, right? That's the same way with some color. Skin may be popular, and then in another group, the other skin is popular. But does that mean anything? Does blue or white tennis shoes mean anything different? Can I walk just as well in both?
Yes.
I wore them though because they threw away the others, but people go that way. Whatever everybody else does must be correct. Ask the flies, right? They say, well, everybody eats this kind of food, but isn't it better to get, if someone's giving away kilos of gold, and I say, well, hardly anybody has those. You only want what everybody else has, right? Would you refuse the kilo of gold? Kilo of gold's worth about how much? About R1 million? But since nobody has one, you don't want it because it's not popular? Is that it? If I convince you money's not popular, will you give me all of yours? So, this is what the Naradama does. And the next person is Maya Pritakana. He has all kinds of knowledge, but his knowledge is stolen by illusion. He may have philosophical knowledge, he may have knowledge of certain politics, but not the whole picture. It's funny, people are judged by one issue with political issues, and they don't judge the whole picture and see what someone may have done good or bad. The problem is that people vote with their ego. Who's the best politician? The one that agrees with me and gives me the things I want. If I'm upset with another country and and that politician wants to go to war, he's the best one, right? Right? If I'm against a certain group of people, and that politician's against, does that make him the best one? If I'm for some kind of practice, even if it's a bad practice, and he's for it too, does that make him good? So people vote with their ego, so it goes to making these choices. You know, it's like my son's wife tells their children, now make good choices. Does everybody make good choices? No. And then you have to live with that choice, right? Right? There's people in the prison, they regret their choices. And they're in there for there's lots of different crimes, right? But people in prison only think there's two crimes. You know what there are? Getting caught and getting convicted. That's all they're, otherwise it's not a crime. If you didn't catch me, no problem, right? Isn't it? And if you didn't convict me, that's also it. No problem. That's in their boat. They think, hey, it doesn't matter as long as I don't get caught. And just because if you didn't get caught now, you'll never get caught, right? Ask some of the bigwigs who are in prison what happened. Eventually the karma dries up and there they go. I guess Pablo Escobar didn't, he built himself his own prison, you know that? He did. And you see the pictures of the big walls. But he could get out of that prison, you know why? It had big, high, thick walls with guards on them. You know why? You only had walls on 3 sides. So you could walk out the other side. Right? But he ended up getting killed. So his 25 billion didn't. Because when you die, with 25 billion, you can only take 5 billion with you. And by rent, you got to multiply by 20. So people's knowledge, you know, how to become criminals, how to find members of the opposite sex, their philosophy in life, just business without a reason, you know, to live. And even if they're big professors, but they don't know the goal of life. Sometimes too much knowledge. Someone needs to know the time of day. You tell them how to build a clock. The stories there, like the salesman has the toaster, and he says, this toaster heats up to 300 degrees Celsius, and it has a 4-meter long cord, and it comes in 6 different colors. The customer says, yes, but does it toast? So sometimes the knowledge of so many things except what we really need to know. You know, maybe I can tell you the names of every state in America or state in India and every country in Africa, but do I know how to get to Westville? If I don't, or I know how to get home from here? So they may have the knowledge, but not the real knowledge they need. And the last person is the out-and-out demon. Now, then there's 4 kinds of pious people that do surrender to me, to Krishna. Krishna says, one person is somebody who's in need of money, someone is in distress, someone else is inquisitive, and the best is someone who's in search of knowledge of the absolute truth. So just like the doctor, you're not going to, somebody shows up in a brand new Mercedes with a very good looking wife and 2 happy children. You're not going to say, people in need of money need to surrender to Krishna, and if you're in distress, you need to come in here and chant right now, isn't it? And you have to try to engage people at their own level. You know, whatever those things are. Prabhupada wrote in a letter that the devotional service is independent, voluntary, and self-motivated. Just like someone says, do I have to chant on beats? I said, only until you want to, and then you don't feel like you have to. So if I can get someone to want to do something, you don't have to keep checking on it, do you? And you have to know that anything is good. Someone was telling me that one woman is temple president somewhere, and someone came to the temple and was trying to make people do more. And she said, there's people who've been here for 15, 20, 25 years, and they do a consistent amount of service. And even if they can do more, it's better to make sure they continue doing that. There was one person that was coming to one of the temples, and when he was in college, he would come and wash dishes. And this is why we want to encourage people, wherever they're at, to be happy with that and maybe want to do more. We don't criticize someone for no reason. We think, in fact, it's better to tell somebody they're better than they are, and then they work to live up to that condition. Or say, are you happy with what you're doing, or would you like me to show you how you can do a little more and how you can improve? It's better to start people with runaround than say, hey, Jen, 108, it's an auspicious number. Because it's true, that may be about 180,000 names of God, but it may be difficult to chant that from the beginning. So you start with one round. The long journey begins with one step. And so there was the person who was washing the dishes there. Somebody said to him, you know, if you don't move in the temple, you might as well just give up. So the person decided to go and start his own computer company. Anybody heard of this company? It's called Apple. His name was Steve Jobs.
Yes.
Was that a mistake to say that to him? To tell him that he should, that because you can still work and give something to Krishna. You don't try to discourage someone. If I tell you, whatever you do, one guy knows says, my daughter doesn't do well in school. I said, well, you tell her, you can't do anything right. What if I'm your parent? I tell you every day, you can't do anything right. Are you going to do well in school and work? No, why try? I can't do anything right anyway. You don't think what you did wrong. Think what you did right and feel how you can improve on it. There's a big difference. That's why French is harder to learn in Hindi. They say, why? French is similar to English. French is very similar written to Spanish, but you can't say it the same way. You know, it's like in Spanish you could say, oh, habla español, andale, andale, canto. But in French, you can't say, il faut faire le truc jusqu'à maintenant. You have to say, il faut faire la truc jusqu'à maintenant. So I'm in Paris. Let's see if this is a good way to act. I asked the man in my bad French, où est le métro de Porte d'Orléans? I was like an 18-year-old kid trying to find the Paris temple. And he puts his nose in the air and says to me, je suis désolé, mais je ne peux pas parler en anglais. Meaning, I'm sorry, but I don't speak French. So I said, mais ça c'est français. That's French. He said, ça, ce n'est pas français. That's not French. So I said, well, thanks a lot, stupid. He turns around in perfect English and says, what did you say to me? I said, I thought so. So is this the way that you encourage people? I say, oh, you know, those pants you're wearing are interesting ones, but I think I liked the green ones you were wearing yesterday better. And I'm like, hey, stupid, how come you're not wearing the green pants? Right? You start out, hey, stupid, and wonder why you're having trouble, like, establishing a bond with the person, right? You have to think of a way. Can I ask you a question? You start the book distributor says, oh, are you students here at the college, or are you part of the staff? You ask simple questions. You know, don't ask, who's the worst person in South African history? You know, you don't ask questions. That'd be difficult to answer. So you ask simple questions. Now, see, in Hindi it's easier because when I was first learning some, I said, May Loi Bazaar Jayenge. I'm going to Loi Bazaar, but Jayenge is the plural. It's supposed to be Jamunga. So someone very nicely says, oh, you mean May Loi Bazaar Jamunga. Say the whole sentence with the corrected word. Because if you say something to me like, where is the post office? Better I just tell you where the post office is. Instead of saying, I don't know what a post office is. Are you stupid? Do you have no brain? Do you not know how to speak the English language? Now I have some favors to ask of you. You know, you want to treat people right first. Just like I told the girl, my daughter and I, my granddaughter, we bought a 3-unit building because you can live in one and rent the others out and you get a lower interest rate. Like 3 1/8. You can't get that here, can you? We showed up at the loan office with guns though, so we got a good rate. No, but because we qualified living in one unit, so we had to move one tenant out. So we moved the ones out that The people said people come and go all night long, and they're smoking stuff off tinfoil, and they destroyed the apartment. So if you're gonna fix something up, you might as well fix the one that's most destroyed, right? Don't destroy something to, because if the inside is worth 10,000 and you destroy it, you've taken away. If it's only worth 500 because they destroyed it, then you can redo it all. So after we moved them out, a few days later, and I'm in there, it's upstairs, and about 3:30 in the morning, I hear 4 people down below, and they're screaming for these tenants. I said, I moved them out. They said, well, they owe us money. And if you don't tell us where they are, we're going to come back after you and your whole family. So you know what I say? Nothing. Because there's no point in threatening. It's like if you owe me money, do I say, I'm coming to your house on Thursday with a gun? You're either going to run away or get others. I'll say, oh, you know what, I want to talk to you about some new business. And then I pull the gun, right? If you really had to do it. So I said, better to listen, because it's better not to tell anybody anything. Because if you threaten me and I just look at you, now you have to wonder, right? Does he not understand me? Is he planning something? Did I even make an impact, right? Because they don't need to prove I can get mad too. What does that mean? I can get mad too. You're a bigger one. Right? So then she says, could you do me a favor and show me they're not there? So it's not me she's angry at. So I said, the 3 others stay down below. The girl comes up by herself. She said, well, thank you for showing me they're not here. I said, here's a piece of friendly advice. First you threatened me and then you asked a favor. It might be smarter to ask favors before you threaten people instead of afterwards. You go, oh, I'm so sorry, what can I do? I said, make sure anybody who knows those people knows they're not here anymore. So, if you really have to take the recourse, if someone's attacking me and I have to hit them with a cricket bat or doing something, but I can't hit you with a cricket bat and then ask you for favors, can I?
No, I never.
No, it's not going to work, right? I'd ask the favor first and then hit you with a cricket bat, right? You have to see how ridiculous it looks. Because if you can try the things, like if I have to discuss something, I ask it nicely, and then I said, listen, you really need, you go, but once you've gone to hostility, then you can't go back, right? You can't go back to now being friends. So we have to think that in dealing with people, is we make a bold proposal in a humble way. Like I would show the books to people in the Westville area, and I would show the one set of books, and I'd say, here's the extra set. Do you want the whole set that's 1,200 rand, or you want to start with just the 750 rand set? And then you just look at them. Because if I look at you and say, do you want the 1,200 rand set or the 750? And I just look at you. Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, now the pressure's on you. You don't say, do you want one or not? You may be steering somebody to something, right? Just like how you deal with things. It's just like I was saying in the car. If somebody's in real estate, when do they call the property you live in? When do they call it a home and when do they call it a house? The real estate agent is talking to somebody. When do they call it a home? When do they call it a house? Do you know when? If I'm trying to get you a home to move in, sell you a property, we talk about a home. We're going to find a home that you and your family are going to enjoy, and you're going to have fun with the neighbors, and this home is going to be everything you need. If I'm trying to get you to list and sell, then we say we can get the most for your house. You want to know when to objectify things, right? Just like if someone lights up a cigarette, hey, you can't smoke cigarettes. You say, I'm sorry, smoking is not allowed. So you want to know when to objectify things and when to personalize them. And you want to think about things carefully. It's like Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, to use deliberate spiritual intelligence. Tukaram in Laguna Beach has gotten many people to join, and he's put many couples together because he'll talk with people, ask a few questions, and he sizes up what's going on with them really quickly, just like that. My granddaughter does that at her business because she studied psychology, and she has a clothing store. She knows which ones to encourage, which ones need a friend, which ones need a little bit of prodding. And then she always tells them what's expected. Because if I tell you, hey, don't you know that on Saturdays you're supposed to wear blue color? Now you're all going to be fined for that. Now if that was a requirement, I need to tell people ahead of time. I can't chastise you for rules that I made up and wonder why you didn't follow them. You need to let people know what's expected. You can't just come up with new things. That's why Prabhupada lists the things we're supposed to do and the timing when the things go on. Let people know that you have their best interest at heart. Because if someone has your best interest at heart, the friendship is what's important. I don't have to be threatened that some people know less than me, and I don't have to be threatened that devotees come along later who know more than me. Because what we're looking for is the ras, the relationship, right? Somebody you may be a friend to. And most of we should put the friendship first. If we're always trying to be, like I said, the big head high potentate, we're not all the Pope. It's not always for us to cram information down someone's throat. Like open the mouth and pour it down rather than give it to them as they want. So, it's much better to be friends with people and just try to give them Krishna consciousness, because let me share something that worked for me and it might help you too, rather than, guess what? I'm doing this Krishna consciousness and you need to do what I'm doing, because I need people to do just what I do, whether they like it or not. Is that a good reason for it? No, but if you say it works for me. So we need to think about things deliberately and see what our purpose is. It's like the one girl said she goes out on books and so many people want to argue. I said, were you going out to argue? If you decide you want to argue, you tell people, hey, it's Thursday today. And then you argue with them. It's refusing to admit that it's Tuesday, right? Of course, it's Thursday, but I'm going to argue with whatever you say, right? No, I'm not. So is that your purpose? If you're going to argue, that should have been your purpose. But if you're not, if the purpose was to do books and to make friends, like Vaisheshika, to leave people with a good impression. If the people aren't interested, if you can't get their attention, you leave them alone. Do I chase them? Right? And if somehow you shocked them, you can't chase them, even if you didn't mean it that way. I didn't realize when I'd come back here after many years, one person said to me that, oh, I can't go in that temple because they told me at the church there's a big snake in there that eats people. I said, there's no snake. If you want to see a snake, let me show you the snake in my bag. And from the temple, I looked, and he was already halfway to the mall. And if I tried to chase him, if I could have caught him, he probably would have peed his pants, because he didn't want to see this snake. It didn't even exist. But people do all kinds of irrational things because of their fear. You know what the garden snake and bush snake danger are? They're not a danger to humans. The mambas are the danger, and they're bright green and black. But the brown snake is just a bush snake. And they get killed more often because there's more of them. But people kill it just because it's a snake. So the danger is for the snake, not for us. They killed the wrong one. Just kill them all and let God sort them out. There was one saying, there was one Catholics were attacking one village, and a different kind of Christians, Catholics, were there. And the one person said to the captain, how do we know which ones are Catholics and which ones are Catholics? He says, oh, just kill them all, let God sort them out. But that's not our philosophy, right? We don't practice it that way. So we have to be thinking deliberately before we do something. There was a thing like this in the child stories, that the man's son had a mongoose that loved his son and would sleep with the son and went everywhere with the son. And the mongoose was asleep with the son. The mongoose comes out covered in blood. Father said, oh, the mongoose has killed my son. Even though they were friends, he cut off the mongoose's head and he went inside, and the son was sleeping No blood on him, no marks. And there was a cobra snake there with its head cut off and blood everywhere. The mongoose had protected the son by killing the snake, and he had killed the mongoose instead. So this is why when people, we have to find out what's the best thing to do. And if we're not sure, we don't take some course of action. We try to think how we can be helpful with people. And just like we share the names, this is why Ramagovinda Swami was saying how the Bhakti Vrikshas can be as helpful, maybe more helpful than the Namahatas, because they only get to 15 and then you split it in half. So you don't have to argue about leadership, because when it gets to 15, the assistant servant leader becomes a new leader. And then we read a verse and everybody shares about it and people talk about what's there. Now we don't have to be jealous if someone knows more about Krishna consciousness than me. I know many people who are newer devotees, but they know much more than I do. And if somebody else doesn't know, I know something he doesn't. That's why people make up conspiracy theories, so that I can tell you, I know something you don't. The only reason I know it is because it never happened, right? So that makes me smart, because I can tell you about the 19th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and how, like, the one girl told me that I shouldn't take the COVID vaccine because it'll turn me into a Russian. So I said, "Niet pravda." It's not true. So she knows something I don't. Or she thinks she does, but of course it's not true. Of course she's the only one that knows it. It's not true. Right? Like, oh, did you see the flying pigs? No? Did you see the invisible man? Of course not, he's invisible, right? So they try to come up with, they come up with something you've never heard of. And that makes, they know they must be smart, they know about something I don't. But if it doesn't exist, of course you don't know about it. So we don't want to do that, we don't need to impress people. We want to show that we're helpful. As I backed to Radhanath Swami, I says, "Oh, it's so good to see you here." He says, "Oh, it's good to see you anywhere." Because we show we care about people. We don't have something to prove. It's like I'm so thankful to come back here and make friends with so many devotees. I don't have to, it's not like we judge by how long you've been in the movement, and that way it gives you more privileges or less. I mean, sometimes they make me something different because I don't eat the fried things. But we don't, it's not like a tennis team. Say we're all on the tennis team, and I may be number 10, right? I'm number 10, and Sean is number 1. So if I challenge him and beat him, I go to number 1, and Sean goes to number 2. And if Gaura Premi was number 2, now you go down to number 3. And if Paramanga was number 3, now you go down to number 4. So by taking the top, I moved everybody down a notch, right? So everybody's a little unhappy with that. So we don't have that kind of pecking order. The idea is we're trying to work as a team to serve Krishna and show that we have each other's interest at heart. And if we can show this to others, more people will join. And we do that by asking the questions like my son did. Don't just say, "Wonderful." It shows you weren't listening at all. You know, some people say they have an open mind, saying that they're listening to everything you say. But I think some people, it means they let it in one ear and out the other. If you're going to ask a question, you should find out what the answer is, shouldn't you? Otherwise, why are you asking the question, right? They ask you, "Are you from Durban or are you from China?" Really, China? Oh, I didn't listen, right? You're from China? Or if I have a preconceived notion, then I don't need to think what you have to say. So we find this in dealing with people. It's like many temples have the care for devotees, to see that devotees have the prasadam, and make sure prasadam's there, make sure the programs are on time. And usually when you're training people, what you don't do is, we have so many things about how we chant and what we do, but one person should train them, not everybody should be saying, no, don't do this, and somebody else, don't do that. One person should show them the things at a time. But let me show you some of the things you need to do. Like if you're training someone how to play cricket, you show them how to hit the bat. I don't know how, so I can't train you. But you don't just go, oh, you did that wrong. Oh, you did that wrong. Oh, I had no idea. You have someone train you, and as they're training you, you say, now this is the correct way. But if you haven't been trained yet, how can they say you did that wrong? Then you're so scared to even try. Because after all, we already told you you can't do anything right anyway. Now how are you going to succeed? So we have to try to train people a little at a time and have someone assigned to that. Like in the temple in Chowpatty where Radhanath Swami has his, they ask if anybody's new and they immediately assign them a counselor. Now they can change to somebody else, but this person guides you and teaches you some of the things you need to know, and you can reveal your mind to them without them putting it on Facebook. Because that's the thing, if I'm saying, you know what that guy is sitting in the red chair does, and I'll tell you all the bad stuff about him, then you're thinking, oh God, I can't tell him my problems, or you'll put it out, and then your problem, you really need to reveal your mind. But you're afraid it'll go all over, and you don't tell anybody, and you kill yourself over it. You know, that can happen. So people need to know that they can trust someone. And so we have to put that out. We let people know that. And you can take people on because somebody can go all the way to being a guru, or they can just show them what the mantra is and what the books we read are. It can be as simple or as complicated as that. But first we just need to show them. It's like if somebody comes to a Natmata or a temple, rather than convince them that I know more Vedic philosophy and more Sanskrit verses than you do, the best thing would let them know that I can be your friend and you should want to come back next week. Make it an easy goal, just like in sales. They ask people, you'd like to be, you've heard of stress, haven't you? Are they going to say no? Are you interested in getting rid of stress? Are they going to say no? You know, some Christians say, does your name appear in the book of life, or are you going to hell? That's not a good place to start with people, right? You might scare people away with that, right? Yet I've seen people use that. So you want to let people know that you have their best interest at heart. You want to ask the questions so that you know just what's going on with them. And especially if it's the first time, let them feel like they want to come back. You don't have to explain a whole lot, just a little, and now people, they're your friends. And enough, if that's all they get is they want to come back next week, that's better than forcing the whole thing on them. And they don't want to come back next week. And you feel so good because you defeated them in an argument. So are there any questions or comments? Did I go on too long? Nobody threw any fruit or vegetables at me. Nobody pulled guns this time. Yes.
You mentioned it's helpful for people who just
Can you speak louder? Is there another microphone? It's a little hard for me to hear from there.
He said that he once mentioned
for people that can follow Krishna and the four people that can follow Krishna, but you mentioned their names.
You mentioned the four who don't follow Krishna, don't surrender to Krishna. They have names.
Yes.
And the ones who do surrender to Krishna.
Yes. One of them is in distress. One of them is in search of money. One of them is inquisitive. And one of them is in search of knowledge of the absolute truth. So you can tell when you're talking, so I'm so distressed, my life is so terrible. Someone else says, I lost my job and I'm searching for something new, but they're not as much distressed. And someone else says, I'm interested in finding out what's going on in the world. Someone else really wants the absolute truth. So by asking them questions, you can find out. If you just start pontificating to them because you want to be like the Pope, and I go on with you for 20 minutes and find out you only speak Chinese, then maybe I wasted my time. It appears that you don't only speak Chinese, right?
Yeah.
That's good. But if somebody's sitting there, they might only speak Chinese. You don't know, or some other language. Isn't it true? We never know. Just like somebody comes here with dark skin and you speak Zulu to them, they might be from America. They have no idea what you're talking about. Right? It's like people of Japanese descent go to Japan and people talk to them and they think something's wrong with them or they're being rude because they don't understand. But it's not. It's just because someone looks similar to you doesn't mean they're just like you. And just because they look different doesn't mean they're totally different. So, I did say the names of them, but I didn't accent it as much as I did with them. So any other question or comment? Anybody have anything to add? How do you try to bring new people here? A good point or what? That doesn't work, because what does Dale Carnegie said? A person convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Right? I can get you to believe in pink buffaloes if I put a gun in your head. But when I take it away, you won't believe in them. You might also not be interested in hearing from me again. Anything else? What do we do next? What is it, group worship? Okay. Thank you. That's what you do. You just invite people to come and you tell them, oh, come and watch what we do. You don't make them participate or get a prayer book out and follow along. Just say, come with us and watch it and see what you think about it. You get people started easy. So say, hey, you weren't chanting loud enough. I didn't see your feet moving fast enough. You just get them to come and check out what's going on. They say you'd like to share something, not you want to force something down their throat.